Welcome to Catalyst for Healing. I am here today with Amanda Fuchs, and she is going to be talking to us about her journey with addiction and working as a mental health advocate and addiction specialist, and also her being a Reiki provider and what Reiki means and help us walk through how that benefits mental health. So welcome, Amanda.
Yay, thanks for having me.
So why don't you introduce yourself a little bit more to the audience?
Sure. Well, thank you so much. I'm so excited we can make it happen finally. My name is Amanda. I like to start with I am a mental health advocate, and I myself also am in recovery from addiction. So I've been sober now for, I think, like 14 years. So it's been a while. And then I've been working in mental health and substance use recovery for about 8 years now. So yeah, I love it. I started working mostly in treatment as primarily a yoga practitioner teaching yoga to facilities, and then it's just transformed the longer that I've worked in recovery, and now I actually co-own a business with my husband where we give a bunch of different actually holistic interventions to use in mental health and in recovery from addiction as well.
Yes, she is multi-talented. She teaches yoga. She also does sound healing. So I've been to your sound healings, and you do a combination of yoga, Reiki, and sound, which has been amazing. So tell us a little bit about your journey. Like, what brought you into this field? We all kind of have our own histories that bring us to our passions and wanting to help other people. So tell us a little bit about yours.
Absolutely. So I've been, like I shared, in recovery since I was 20 years old. But before that, I had actually a lot of struggles with mental health growing up. So part of the reason I find myself in this field now is I was kind of during that, like, I don't even know, I want to say like beginning stages. I don't know. I feel like in early, what year would have this been? Like in the early 2000s, I feel like there was a lot of other kids like me that perhaps showed symptoms of anxiety and showed symptoms of depression. And I remember being really young and feeling just kind of off, but I was also like going through puberty and was just a young child, but wanting to have like a diagnosis or a fix because I really struggled with anxiety and depression.
What age?
And I was around 12 or 13 years old. And I was just a highly sensitive kid. I really was. And I tried talk therapy and I told my parents about it. And I remember going to the library and reading in books and like trying to diagnose myself because I was like, just didn't feel like I fit in. Institutionalized schooling was hard, all of those things. But I feel like I kind of got even more challenged and kind of more messed up because I went into like going into a therapist, and then I was prescribed medication at a really young age. And the medication that I was prescribed was not very helpful. So I was given ADHD medication. I already was prone to addiction. So like being prescribed, I think, medication that didn't.
You didn't know that at that point.
I had smoked like a little bit of weed and stuff, and I knew that I had maybe some, I liked the feeling of it, but I didn't really like do pills or anything at that point in time. So when I was prescribed finally medication, I think it made my diagnosis and everything a little bit more confusing because it wasn't the right path. I think that they should have given a 13 or 14-year-old personally, looking back now. And my parents, because I'm adopted, they really didn't have a background in any mental health or diagnosis in their family. So they were just listening to doctors. Yeah. So I went to them first, telling them I was, anxious. And then the next thing they know, the doctors are putting me on all this medication for bipolar and for manic depression and for ADHD. And I'm like 15 years old. So I started to self-medicate, started to drink because all these doctors don't know what's wrong with me, when really I'm just a teenager trying to live my life. And I'm, probably was as nervous as any other teenager, probably wasn't eating right, probably wasn't sleeping well, all of those things. And
your history is interesting because you grew up with foster care before you
got
adopted, right?
I was I was in a home for only about 2 years, but yeah, so I didn't really, and my biological mom, she was an addict herself. So I, have some addiction in my family. So when I was in my teenage years, I think once, you go into these doctors that are supposed to be like the end all be all answer for your pain, your discomfort, for your insecurities, all these things. And my parents are just like listening to whatever they think they should do.
Right.
And by the time I was 19, I was so burnt out on medication. And I remember, like, I think one of my last visits with my doctor, they were like telling me I had 3 antidepressants left, basically, I hadn't tried. And I remember them telling me one of them there's a high chance of being suicidal. One of them was a sister of another medication that I had really, really bad withdrawals from and symptoms from. And then the other one was brand new, so it wasn't really tested. So I remember at the end just being like, there has to be other answers besides this. And then I kind of like went deeper into drugs because
And what were you using at that point?
At that time, it was mostly pills. So I would do like Xanax and basically anything that would make me feel good. That was a pill, mostly amphetamine based, because I didn't usually like Vicodin and opiates would make me really ill. But yeah, so I was self-prescribing with meds. I couldn't drink like a normal person. I was definitely a binge drinker just because I think I was struggling.
Yeah.
I was having a really hard time. I'm sure I went through some identity crisis as well at that age because I was adopted, and that's very common for people like that. So it was really, really hard. And also kind of going back to that time in my life when I was ready to really get help, I didn't even know that I was withdrawing from the Xanax that I was prescribed. I actually just thought I was losing control. Like I just felt physically ill and was losing control of my life. And I was actually withdrawing from taking way too many of my prescribed medications. So I needed to go to rehab. I didn't need to go to just a mental health facility. And I think that was kind of a wake up. I was 19. Okay. So that was kind of a wake up call for my family, I think, because I remember going to them and being very suicidal and telling them, I can't live like this anymore, and just letting them know I was at my wit's end. And they were going to send me to a mental health facility. And I told my mom, I need you to go get my medication. I need you to go get my medication. I don't feel good, all this stuff. So she goes to go pick it up. And they're like, we cannot give her more medication. She has taken, I think it was like 100 pills within a 7-day time span or something wild like that. I'm sure I was giving some freebies out to friends, not going to lie. But I think at that point in time, I was taking a lot and drinking a lot. And at that point, I was put into a rehab and detox. And then I went to rehab for the first time. And I think the clarity of that was it was a very short period of clarity at that moment in time because I was so young and for so long I'd been in and out of doctors telling me, you're depressed or you're bipolar or you're manic, you're all these things. And really, I just hadn't been sober since I was 13 and I didn't know how to take care of myself.
Right.
I didn't know how to eat. I didn't know how to feel safe. I wasn't really given any tools on how to regulate the nervous system.
Right.
So at that point in time, I went to treatment and I met the first guy I met in treatment, in detox. And he was like the worst one in the room. He wasn't there to get sober is what I'm trying to say. Yeah. Fell in love with him and relapsed pretty immediately. We moved up to NorCal. That's a way longer podcast, but it was a very short period of time where I was introduced to harder drugs and started using really, really hard drugs for about a year and was in a very abusive relationship in the middle of the woods at 19, 20 years old. And doing drugs with people twice my age. And it was just not a good deal. My landlord was a dealer, so I got it all the time. And my partner at the time was just as sick as I was and had no want to get sober.
This is a lot of fears of people with rehabs. Like,
what do you mean?
Going in and meeting other people that are addicts and then maybe being influenced to go back to drugs. I mean, how is that managed at facilities?
I mean,
there's not much you can
do. At the end of the day, when I look back at that period of my time, like I knew I wasn't ready to get sober because I didn't ever have an answer still. I know, but I didn't have an answer to all the misdiagnosis. I didn't have an answer to my anxiety, to my depression. I knew I was going to go in, I was going to get detox and then go through detox and then I was going to be in the exact same place I was searching for answers. And the only thing that ever gave me relief was drugs or alcohol.
Yeah.
Or codependency for some people, right?
Right.
Like love, sex, and drug addiction. So I meet somebody in the same pain that can at least reflect that for me, and we can both be in that pain together, So I ended up using for another year after that, and then I ended up getting sober. And not very long after getting sober, I was still really struggling with mental health just because I was still just having, I was really a hypochondriac, honestly. Looking back, I had a lot of really negative thoughts about like my life and fear of death and all of these things. And then one day, everything else in my life was great as far as sobriety, but what was going on in my mind was exhausting.
Yeah.
And one day I tried a yoga class, and that was literally everything outside of me was like, I don't want to do that. Comfortable, like there's nothing in it for me. I was so resistant, but the fact that it was very close in proximity to where I worked, number one, and then number two, it was free. I'll try anything once. Let's go. So I went, and they had like a 2-week free trial, and anybody that has a little bit of addiction in them, 2 weeks means free. I'm going to go as often as possible, and I did that. And for the first time in my life, like 4 days after that, I just remember having no negative thoughts, and my brain was shut off for the first time in as long as my existence could remember. So I was like, wow, that is possible. That is wild. And I remember being in there and seeing. When
you say brain shut off, you mean like just calm?
I was like, for once, I wasn't thinking a negative thought or what I have to do next or any, I just was present. That's and awesome. That blew my mind because I had never had that type of peace in my life. And I remember also looking at the other people working there and like the teachers and stuff. And I was like, are they really that happy? I was like, why are they smiling like that? Like, this has to be fake. Like, I just had never seen anybody like glow, like literally glow in my life like that. And I was like, I want that. I don't know if that's real. I want it, And I just, after that, it really took me only like 4 months until I was in a teacher training and I completely dived in. And that was probably when I was about 23. And around the same time, I found the outdoors. I fell in love with rock climbing and nature. And the company I worked for, I was a sales manager for a really big, the REI co-op. So I was working for them for a long time. And the combination between yoga and the outdoors, it made my sobriety become the life I always wanted.
That's awesome.
So at that point in time, it was like, oh my gosh, like these things are coming in.
You're tapping into things you loved, but also we're getting regulated by.
100%. I was getting regulated. I was getting inspired. I was meeting people that wanted to live a life that they loved, and it didn't have anything to do with alcohol or drugs. And nobody would look at me sideways when I told them no drink. They're like, cool, let's go outside and go climb a rock. I'm like, awesome. And so probably found Reiki around 25 or 26 years old. So a few years into my recovery, about I'd say 5 years into my recovery, a few years after yoga. I always knew what it was, knew a little bit about the energy healing aspect, and I don't know if anybody can relate to this, but I always felt like from the darkness of my past and the challenges of my past and the pain of my past, I was always so scared that it was gonna unleash some demon or something out of me. I'm not even kidding. I just was from the reflection of people told me about Reiki, I was like, I don't know if I'm ready for those emotions to come up. I was always so afraid of my emotions. That's why I used, right? And so I waited until I thought I was ready, and I found somebody I really trusted, and that's still my Reiki master now. Her name is Christine. And I remember when I was ready to be Reiki certified, I not only did my Reiki 1 on the same weekend, but I also did my trauma-informed yoga teacher training. So I was like, I'm going to do them both on the same weekend because that sounds like a great idea to me. And it was, but it was very, very powerful and very transformative and very hard.
Yeah.
And Christine and then my other dear friend Heather, who went through the training with me at the same time, we just both can attest to it was life-changing, Reiki 1. And so fast forward, sorry, I'm a rambler, but fast forward to now, I have, I'm a Reiki master. So I've done my Reiki 1, Reiki 2, Reiki master. I am a yoga, RYT 500. So I've done 200 hour in vinyasa. I've done my Ashtanga 100 hour. I've done restorative and yin. and I've done trauma-informed yoga, and I'm also a certified hypnotherapist now.
That's awesome.
And also a wilderness first responder nature guide, so a backpacking guide. And I try to take all of this and put it into the business that I have now with my husband, Holistic Practitioners Mental Health, where we bring all of these different modalities to treatment centers to give them a holistic approach to get into their body, into their mind, and into their energy. And we're using that to help move energy through your body, balance energy in your body, and it works through the meridian lines in the system in your body. So when I'm describing it in a treatment center, a lot of times I like to describe it as acupuncture, like acupuncture, because it does the same kind of energy release and it helps with imbalance, overbalance, stuff like that. But it's a hand hovering technique, so I'm not actually touching you physically, but it's still working with those same systems. And sometimes acupuncture is still like woo woo to some, but it's a little bit more, I would say, socially acceptable. So I try to introduce it that way.
Yeah.
Another thing I might say to people that are just trying it out for the first time is it's not necessarily always immediately effective. You really have to trust the person that is working with you. So a lot of times when I'm working in treatment centers, I will do distance Reiki, or I won't be standing right next to them until we feel like our energy fields kind of trust each other. Kind of like hypnotherapy, really. Like until your conscious is like, okay, I'm relaxed, I'm ready to receive, then we are able to really move mountains in that. And yeah, so it feels different for everybody. So it can feel like warm and fuzzy. It can feel tingly. It can feel like pressure. And it can feel like flushing. You might get emotions that arise. You might get physical sensation. And then afterwards, for the first few sessions, a lot of times it's a 24-hour effect. So there's like something that might happen afterwards as far as like different things might come up or feelings or yeah. So there's just, it's great. It's great stuff. And I always like to say, like I said, the first time it might not feel like a lot, but the more I work with people and the more that we start to trust each other, you can really make some really awesome impact on energetic fields and what's going on in the body.
Yeah. So where did it originate? Do you know much about the history?
So it originated, it's Japanese and it's from Usui, and I need to get the actual how far ago it was. Usui Reiki. Let's see. So there's different types of Reiki, and I do Usui Reiki, and what is the date that we're looking for? And then I think it came to the West first to Hawaii. Yeah, so 1922, and then it came to the West some point after. All right. So, yes. Okay. So, a little bit about the background of Reiki. So, the type of Reiki that I practice, there are several different types of Reiki nowadays. So, you'll hear the Holy Fire Reiki. Our lineage is from Usui. So, it originated in Japan, and Usui was meditating on a mountain in Japan and had this 21-day fast and came to these ancient symbols were given to him throughout this meditation that we use when we are practicing Reiki. And this was in 1922. After that, it was brought over to the West. I believe it was originated in Hawaii first when it came to the West. I'm not completely positive on that, but we still use all of the principles and all of the symbols that were originated from Usui and the Reiki that I practice.
So what would you say are the mental health benefits?
Yeah, so
there's you notice that with your clients or just even, that are kind of shown with research?
Sure, yes. So there's a lot of mental health. There's a lot of mental health benefits that happen with Reiki. I'm going to talk about my first experience, and then I'll kind of say some of the actual scientific facts of what we feel like Reiki can provide for our clients. But for me, I really noticed that same thing I felt when I started to practice like the asanas of yoga, where there was this quietness in my mind that occurred, the warm feelings that occurred, but mostly the regulation that I started to feel. Physical effects, like recognizing like maybe your heart doesn't feel like it's going to come out of your chest, less fluttery, overactive thoughts, you might pretty immediately feel somewhat grounded. So when we look at the science of why this can be helpful in different treatment centers, is it can really help instate a feeling of calm and like a feeling of meditation, a feeling of almost like regulation ease. It can de-stress. It's proven to help with sleep. And yeah, there's so many benefits.
Yeah. definitely lower stress. So when you came over, you used, what was that?
Oh, my pendulum?
Yes, the pendulum.
Yeah.
At the different chakras.
Yeah.
I thought it was fascinating because they were spinning
Yeah.
and then they weren't spinning for
Yeah.
some, so you could immediately tell where the blockages were.
Yes.
Why don't you explain that?
Sure.
Because
Yeah.
it's really
We have so many chakras in our entire body, but the main ones that we talk about is our 7 down the center, right? And so when I wish I would have brought it, but I have a pendulum and I will use it to check how things are flowing. So we'll call the chakras also wheels. So the way that our energy flows in those areas. So with the pendulum, what I do, I usually don't do it at the treatment centers because again, that's super woo woo, but for individual clients, I'll use it and move down the 7 main chakras. And basically, what I'm looking for is if the pendulum is moving in that clockwise rotation, that field, that area, that wheel is nice and open and it's flowing well. If it's flowing and it's like kind of, really intense and maybe doing huge circles, I think that was your heart. I'm not sure, but
that's right.
That means it's super open. And sometimes you might call that overactive, or there's just like an abundance of energy that's coming out of that center.
Right.
Another thing I'm looking for is like how it's swaying. So if it's just going like a side to side, sometimes we might say that that's something in transitional energy or something's going on with that center. And it's just a good indicator before I start my practice to kind of see, like visually see what's going on.
Yeah.
And then the next thing would be to feel what's going on. But it's an awesome thing to show your clients too, because they can kind of see that my hand isn't moving and the entire pendulum is. So it's
it is a
so it's good for non-believers, honestly.
To me, because I was like, this is something real, because you're not moving your hand. So I think with me, my throat was closed, because I remember, and my heart was maybe overactive. Explain what you did to bring me back into balance.
Sure.
It was a powerful visualization.
Yeah.
And I just remember you were trying to shift things around.
Yeah. So I like to do a lot of visualization when it comes to energy healing. So basically with our energy system, so energy will come and enter out of the crown chakra and then out of the root chakra. So the feet and the head. So a lot of times if we have some sort of imbalance or something feels like really heavy or tight or holding on, or something feels like an influx of energy from the upper chakras, you want to balance up. And then if things are happening in the lower chakras, you want to balance down. So throat is a really common underactive area for a lot of people. It's our area that we speak our truth out of. It's our area that we, not only to other people, but to ourselves about things. The color's blue. So this area, it can even manifest really any of the chakras when underactive or overactive in physical things. So throat can feel like it's kind of closed or dry, or you might get a dry cough. So if I'm trying to open this area up and you have a lot of energy in your heart, then the best way to describe it that my teacher would say is that we have these cups, right? And so think of your cups are filled to the top when they're even. They're overflowing, maybe overactive, underactive, the water might be really low. So if she has an overactive heart and there's lots of water coming out, and then maybe this one's like, so it's a little parched. And then up here we have maybe a clear flow. I'm going to try to move that energy and clear it towards where it needs to go. So kind of move it around. And a lot of times I'll do a visualization that comes with that. So for throat, because the color's blue and I'm much like a water energetic being, I'll talk a lot about water and how we can clear this area, maybe like raindrops, or envisioning like a beautiful lake, and try to work with the person I'm working with to whatever's the easiest visualization to help you do it. Because at the end of the day, my favorite thing that I was ever taught about Reiki is, first of all, anybody can access it. Number one, like I said, it's all around us, the beautiful light force energy. I just went through the training and I got the symbols, but I'm not here to heal other people. I'm here to be a conduit to their healing. And that is what I want you to feel empowered to be aware of what is in your body and what's going on, and how do you, when I walk away, do something for yourself. Because that's where the magic is, right? Is I'm just here to guide, and then you find it, and then the goal would be you doing something on your own, or at least be aware of it. And then I just give you a little reset every once in a while. That was really empowering. I know, and I felt like very imbalanced after that, that session. And I think it's so cool because a lot of the integrative health places are incorporating Reiki because they see the benefits. And how are the recovery centers that you're part of
receiving that?
Yeah, I would say so. When I started working in the centers, that's actually what I started doing first. So before yoga, I actually was doing Reiki healing, and I created a curriculum that would also balance with meditation, guided meditation, visualization with the Reiki. Because again, if you're not ready to receive it, I can't give that. But I can give you the opportunity to get into your own mind, your own body, visually and meditatively. So at the beginning, I would say I was probably one of the main Reiki practitioners in North OC. Like there wasn't a lot of us, right? Yeah. And there should still be growing more, I feel like. But back in the day when I first started, I feel like it was really, really powerful, but a lot of people didn't really know what they were going to be getting into, right? And some of the centers that I was at, the larger ones, was a lot of the clients were from like all different walks of life, right? And so hybrid mental health and substance use. And so a lot of it's just meeting the clients where they're at, and you do your best and they will receive what they can. But the days that they finally did receive or they were ready to receive, really magical things happened and they were so excited about it. And you would again see people from all walks of life, any age, any background, affluent or somebody that just came off the street or maybe integrating back into the out from the system, like all these different levels of different levels of people. And it was just really powerful to see like them come in so hard and so resistant, and then by the time they were gone in our few weeks together, be like, oh man, give me some of that Reiki. Yeah. And they'd be like Reiki. They like, they like it. So, and now I'm really grateful that it isn't unheard of to be in a lot of the center. It's still not something that is seen as a necessity. It's definitely something, just like any holistic practice, honestly, is seen as like a nice to have, but we don't need it. So that's what we're trying to do.
It was like all those holistic things came together, healed you, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the rock climbing, the outdoors, the yoga, and Reiki. I mean, so it's just a great testament to, again, people embracing a holistic way of being in life. That's what I love about how you're approaching the addiction centers, because again, some are just very, medicalized, and then there's some that are operating with that whole person. Yeah. And how would you describe the difference of that, the holistically addressing?
Yeah, I mean, I think honestly, like there's a place for both, right? Like there's a reason that we have a clinical approach, absolutely, for the types of care for some of our clients and the diagnoses that we see and the places that they come from. And, so when they are ready and in enough of a regulated space where they feel like they have a safe place to talk about traumatic events, and then at the same time they have somewhere else where they can feel safe starting to get into their body. I think that is something that we're going to see a lot more normalized. My husband, he is a doctor in PT, but he brings physical therapy lectures essentially to different centers. So he likes to like make it a classroom. It's very educational. Also not a common thing at treatment centers, but he likes to empower them with education to see how our immune system works and nutrition works, and why we need to be physically active and what types of things happen to us when we use and don't take care of our bodies. And so I think with all of these different modalities of an approach, it gives, again, options. And so you and I have talked about how there's not like a one size fit all. If we knew why people used, and we would save thousands and thousands and thousands of people a month. But we don't. And what we need to do, because not everybody's going to get sober for one reason why, and not every treatment is going to work for one person. I mean, they talk about it in AA or different centers all the time. It's just like you're just trying something different that you haven't tried before. And the only thing that is, I would say, that we all for sure need, though, is we're going to be in our physical body the rest of our life. We're going to have our mind the rest of our life. So how do we treat both of those things, right, in a way that is something that we can always keep with us? Breath, you always have your breath, you always have your body to move, right? And whether you believe in energy or not, go outside, take your shoes off, walk around in the sand and see if you feel a little bit calmer, or if you're more of an earth person, maybe walk around on the dirt. But either way, like we're working on showing how these actually have cause and effect in a positive way. And that is the next step, right? Is how do we prove it? Yeah. Besides just like, I feel calmer. And that's the next step, what we're doing.
So I love your point, and that's other practitioners we've had. It's like, just don't give up hope, because I think people that are dealing with addiction, it's very easy to get discouraged, especially if they've been in multiple treatment centers before they get sober or whatever the process is. But like you're saying, it's like keep trying new things that are gonna, you never know what the right thing is gonna be for you.
And I think different centers are starting to, especially in California. So California and Florida will be like the most saturated areas for recovery centers because people want to go get sober where it's nice and warm and pretty. Yeah. But I think you're seeing a lot more adventure therapy, which I love because for me it was such a saving grace for my recovery, my mental health, and even honestly my spirituality. I always say when I went to Yosemite for the first time, that is why I believe in God or higher power, just because of how freaking beautiful it was. But yeah, so you're just seeing those types of things more. It's these different type of experiential therapies that, and then the other actually thing is connection, right? Is people. So of course not everybody loves a group facilitation place. A lot of people want individualized therapy, and that's all good. But I would say don't knock it until you try it. Just like all these other things we're talking about is like try to connect in your body or go, hiking with somebody you've never, that shares some of those same things, not your exact story, but seeing that relatability and that representation is so powerful as well.
Yeah. And the group work is so powerful. I mean, I think people are afraid sometimes to open up with groups, but you realize everybody has the same struggles. And in some ways you can hear your story and theirs and learn from them in some way. And so anyway, thank you for sharing your story because I think it's so powerful. And I love just that you're doing what you're passionate about and sharing your gifts with others through your own healing. So
thank you.
I just so appreciate that.
Yay. Yeah, I love it. So
we'll have all of Amanda's information in the show notes. And you can find her and her husband's company that works with the addiction centers and her Reiki and yoga and all of it. So
HP Mental Health.
Oh, there you go. All right. We'll see you next week.